Ready whenever you are. Good. Anybody else? Okay. Go ahead and call the meeting to order, the proposed tax notice public hearing.
Roll call. Josh,
Here.
Nathan,
Here.
Melissa, here, Mindy, here, Andrew.
Here. All right, do we have an approval of the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thanks everyone for joining us. I have a little opening statement here. And I'll say a little bit that's not on the paper too, so. This public hearing is required as part of the district's certified budget. The notice provided to each resident shows the maximum total property taxes the district will adopt as part of the certified budget, which will be adopted by April 30th. Board secretary is hereby directed to enter any written comments into the record of this public hearing. For those of you in attendance, thank you for being here today. We value your input and are interested in hearing your comments. If you are planning to speak, please fill out the form on a side table, including your name and address, and hand it into the board secretary. Your names will be called in the order received. Each speaker will have a maximum of 5 minutes. Your public comments will be considered as part of the district's final budget decisions. As a reminder, board members are present to listen to and receive these comments. Board members will not engage in dialogue or respond to questions during this meeting, but may address issues that arise at a future board meeting. So again, thank you all for coming. I imagine a lot of this is in response to the letters that you all got in the mail, which is a new thing from the state legislature. I'll let Gail explain it after we go through the public hearing here, but the numbers that you get that we are required to send out by the state are wildly different than what reality will probably be. Any of you that own businesses or have managed your money at any point in time would never publish your budget before it was written. But for some strange reason, that is what the law says we have to do now. So if you're thinking that doesn't make sense or sounds kind of weird, we agree so too. With that, we're ready to proceed. We have a list of any public speakers or just here to listen.
We received we received 6 written comments that I will add to the records. And that includes phone calls from today. And I believe everybody probably received those. And I have 3 here. Jason Marcourt, Joe Rice.
Yep.
And Aaron Ellison. You want me to just hang on to them and keep track of 5 minutes?
Yeah, that's fine.
Want to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
First would be Jason.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Do I need to
Yeah, you
sit in the
can.
chair? Okay.
You feel comfortable there?
You can stand, you can,
Okay.
whatever you want to do.
All right. So I just wanted to come today to speak in opposition to the tax raised as written. That is a very important point I want to make, as written. So there's 3 main points that I want to make. And so the first point is you don't really have any control over this, but the wording of how this letter goes out is very confusing. I've talked to literally all of my neighbors about it, and they didn't really quite follow like what the tax rate means to like what the example says. Okay, this is exactly how much it costs dollars that it's proposing. So a lot of them were just like, oh, well, 2%, that's probably fine. But then when you look at the example, it's like, okay, that is a significant raise. Like dollar value, that's a approximately 30% increase. So a couple of my points have to do with language, but in general. So the first one is So in your justification, you state that the district is on a budget guarantee due to declining enrollment. Per the total served enrollment numbers from the Iowa Department of Education. So that number for the last 4 school years is about 1,600 plus or minus about 46 kids. So in general, what is the definition of declining enrollment that has been used for that? Because based on the statistic, that is not substantiated. In general, a 30% increase on the taxpayers in 1 year is unsustainable. Especially for people on fixed incomes and retirees and other people in that kind of situation. Also, the economic outlook for this year is not very rosy, including the mass layoffs of federal workers, of which I know quite a few of them live in this district. So adding this on top of that is probably that's not a very good plan. So in addition, an increase of this magnitude for people who are planning to move out of the district, it's going to make it a lot harder for them to sell their houses and businesses, thereby decreasing the population of the district just in general. Because if you have a family, but you know that the tax rate is going to increase by this much, you might choose to relocate somewhere else. So you had previously stated that, this is just in general where you guys are starting with your potential budget. So I wanted to make my comments just heard, and I understand that, this is your starting point, but this is a very large starting point. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And legally, I'm not addressing you, I'm just talking.
Yes.
Well, there'll be a summary after this that explains a lot of that. We gotta do the public forum first, so. Next name?
Joe Price.
After that, I think I'm good. What you said, I just need to make sure that things were said, and if you guys are gonna go through it, then I guess I don't need to say what's already been said.
That works for public forum. I am super thankful to see so many people. I wish everyone showed up like this to a normal, boring board meeting. But I know that they're pretty boring normally, so it is not lost on us. Every comment, regardless of where it lands in the budget discussion, is very important to us. And again, just an active and engaged district and taxpayers is super important to us, and I love seeing all but one chair empty here, so. Next.
Aaron.
Name's Aaron Ellison. I agree with these guys here too. I mean, I work for the state. Or on fixed income. What they laid out to me, and my taxes, and my only increase in 2% wages, I can't even offset the justification to pay that. So I'm actually, my wife and we're trying to buy some more ground. Now we're looking at moving because of this. We cannot justify everybody's in the same boat. And we have to cut some of our stuff too. I think just as it's hard for schools to do that too, but we gotta think that way too a little bit. Where can we cut some stuff? I know I hate talking about it because I like to see it thrive, but my income, 5 kids and stuff like that, and they want to be in activities. I have to make some they have to make some sacrifices too. So I think, when they laid out that tax hike for me, what they wanted, there's just absolutely no way I could even justify it. Period. And even think it's really, like I said, it's getting to the point of thinking about even moving because of this, and that's the last thing we want to do. But what they said they're gonna try to jump our property tax $3,500 a year. I can't justify that. So, it's just pretty much what we're trying to do with our business. It's just pretty much we kiboshed it. Because we can't afford, we won't be able to afford the tax stuff. So I mean, now we're actually thinking about what we wanna do. I think it's just as much as you guys have to rethink about things, what school's gonna have to do. Just to, be more justifiable or to make cuts too. Like I said, I have to make cuts, I think just as much as you get, school will have to do too, and I don't like doing that. We wanna see it go, but. And like I said, fixed incomes, a lot of people are getting laid off. How can we? There's just no way people can pull that kind of money around. Especially a 1 year jump, that's just not. I mean, I can see it if it was a couple $100 every so often, but. Not at the rates that you guys are, the state, county and the schools are proposing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're getting.
Yeah, I'll review,
Okay.
yeah.
Alright.
Okay, so,
And explain how we got here.
okay,
That's,
so, the form or the letter that everybody received in the mail is basically, information on, what the district has the capability of, it's the authorization, so it's more like a maximum levy that the district has available that we can do. And so, the first column, far left is what we currently are at right now. And the fiscal year 26 is what we're discussing, the hearing is tonight, is the maximum levy is, what tonight's proposed is basically all the authority that the district has and that could put into place. Now, I don't think anybody here on the school board has any, that's not what they would probably propose right now. So, but it's the maximum levy that the district has the capability of taxing. But, and so what it includes is the detail of, so right now, we do not have a SSA, which is the state aid from the state. It's at 0. It has not been set yet. It's way past the deadline. So.
and that is an annual process that the state does where they supplement
It's a
the
state
essentially our
supplemental.
budget through that. And they typically don't decide what that is until after this process goes through.
That's not the law. The law is that they are to set it in a certain amount of days once session has started, but they haven't met their deadline for probably the last 5 years for sure. So here we are in a position that we need to meet our timelines for the budget, but yet still protect the district and in a financial, keep us in a financial condition with some unknowns. So, so right now, so the maximum levy that right now is 100%. The budget guarantee, because of our enrollment decrease, is all 100% property taxes. Now, the governor's SSA is at 2%. That was her recommendation. Now they're trying to decide 2, 2.25 plus some other things tied to education. But the difference between where we're at right now at 0 and 2%, it's, just $250,000 of property taxes. So, hopefully they settle at 2%. And then that would just come directly off of that property tax. And it would just be from $259,000 to $9,000. So, so the notice you received in the mail is really not a proposed rate, it's a maximum rate that the district has the capability of levying. So the far right is basically what the board has been in discussion, probably since, we've been talking budget since probably December, maybe even before that. And so, the hearing for tonight was the maximum levy rate, the most capability. Now, the more, probably the probable rate, and I can't speak on behalf of the board, I'm just speaking in general terms here, is the estimated, assuming that the SSA rate will be set at 2%. And then as you go down, the with every piece of that levy is in there. And it would be more like our 18.0, just over 18. And, so I don't, Josh, do you want to add any more to that?
No, I just, again, if it sounds confusing and you're frustrated about all this, you should be, you know, it's unusual that, any organization would have to publish a budget like this, but that is what we're required by law to do. We're responding to what the state has done. They are required by law to have had this done for, you know, quite a while now, this year. So, no, we're not, there's that budget 30%, we're not increasing the school district's budget by 30%. So like if you thought we were gonna do that, you should come here tonight and raise the heck. That's not what we're doing. Unfortunately, we have to send out. Can you talk about how you send that letter and the restrictions on how, when we're required to send that letter in a certain way?
Yeah, so, by March 4th, I have to have that notice, that Gilbert notice, available for the Story County auditor to grab it from, and then the Story County auditor sends out, all Story County levies. And so the only piece that I can, of course, I put my information in about the levies, the maximum levy rates, at that time, what is known. And then at the bottom, all I really can put is, I think I'm limited to 75 to 100 characters. So I'm shortening it, trying to hit the main parts about what affects those property taxes, which I included, you know, budget guarantee, which is 100% property taxes, cash reserve, which is 100% property taxes, and special education. The special education deficit does not get fully supported by the state. So in order, it's more, the deficit is basically supported by the taxpayers. And then what we have to do is levy for the cash to support that deficit. And we've been in a really good financial position for the last 5 years, maybe 5 to 8 years. We have not been able to levy and to get cash because we've been in a good, you know, financial position. So as we've gone through this, we work through a 5-year projection model, and we plan out and budget 5 years out, which is hard based on legislation. We don't know what's going to be supported, but we do our best guess. And so based on our 5-year projection, we project what we estimate, and then and what our cash flow has been very minimal. So we need to replenish some of that cash flow. We have not been able to cash flow for the last 5 to 7, 8 years. So we are in the position to do that now, and our special ed deficit has gone, you know, from 400 to 500 to 700. Now it's almost short of 800,000. So that's just to keep the financial health of the district, to bring that back and for the cash flow of that. Anything else anybody wants to add?
No, I'll just say, I mean, we hate these letters more than anybody else in this room, because we have to send these letters out with really knowing what our budget is. The state has not told us what our dollars that are coming in. So we have to present these letters as though we are getting $0 from the state. Now, could we get $0? Yes, we could get $0, but that's not our problem. We have no control over that. So when these letters go out, we have to assume we're getting nothing additional from the state for next year. So we hope to get 2%. We hope to get 3, 4, 5%, but based off of 0, yes, the tax rate would increase to 19.48. We by no means want that, but we have expenses going up too at the school district as well. If we get the 2%, it'll go down to 18. Again, it's still up from last year, but again, that is all caused from increased costs across the board. I mean, our costs are going up too. I will tell you, property taxes are not used to pay salaries and benefits. So that's the one thing that people, oh, well, we got too many. No, that's not salary and benefits. So that's a whole separate deal that we got to deal with. So again, we do not like these letters. These are forced upon us, the timing of them. We have to set them up by a certain time frame. We expect the state to give us our budget by time frame. They don't give us that. So then we still have to send this letter out saying, we don't know what money's coming in. So we're assuming nothing more is coming in from the state. So that's why it's such a large increase. And we just hope the state comes through, they can figure out what increase we get this year, and we can bring it down to a level that makes more sense for our district. But again, we apologize. The whole process from the state level is terrible, and the timing is just absolutely terrible.
I do
So-
think it's, it's considering moving, that's a big deal to hear, and I think the outreach beforehand, because we have such a, I'll say a stupid process, I don't know if I can say that legally, but I'm not the one that did it at the state house, so maybe work on some communication to better explain that in more than 75 characters allotted by the state, so because I think it's frustrating that there's a lot of that stress going through the district right now over something that's unsubstantiated because we're doing our job and the state isn't doing theirs, so. But we hear you, and the budget is not set yet, so again, it's not done yet. We have another month, you know, the meetings through the end of this, so. Call your state representatives and let them know how much of an impact their decisions at the state house have on your local property taxes. I live in the city of Gilbert. I feel it anytime this stuff goes up too, so. Guess that's what I have. Anything else?
I just want to say that we take this very seriously. We've been talking about it for quite a while. One of the primary functions of each of us in these seats is fiscal responsibility. We take that very seriously, so I appreciate everyone showing up and what we heard thus far. I'll speak for myself, I understand. And we're aware.
Ash, do you want to speak to the enrollment? I know that was kind of asked.
Yeah, the projected enrollment for the next year, I think Gail can tell me probably the exact number.
Christine's
Yeah,
probably better on
I can
that.
help you do that. So to the question about, or the conversation around enrollment, we have seen an increasing in enrollment over the years, which is wonderful, and we'll continue to see that. This year, we had, I think it was 12, we were down by 12 students.
Actually 17.
Okay, thank you. I know it was 12 or 17. 17 students, we did go down in enrollment. When you look historically across Gilbert, we typically have, every year typically goes up. But once in a while, there's almost like a self-correction, if you will, where there's a year that takes a little dip, a couple students, a few students. And this year, it surprised even us, because as we're all driving around our communities and our neighborhoods and seeing houses going up, and we had projections that looked at those, we're expecting more kids to come through our doors, and we will again. I'm confident in that. It's just this year, that's where that fell. So to that point about enrollment, I think it's a really good point. The other thing too, I wanted to just mention is that because the budget is, even when all the, the stars align, if you want to say that, and we have an increased number of students that come and the legislature does what they need to do and gives us percentages, we still as a school district are always asking the question, is this a want or is this a need, and what can we do in making decisions? Just like you all do with your home budgets, with your business budgets, we have those same conversations here to say, what does that look like? How can that be a part of it? That's all part of our planning. For example, as we look at things like, busing or grounds, we have long range. Gail talked about the 5-year planning model. We look at that to make sure we're planning things and we don't just all of a sudden need new roofs everywhere. That would be really expensive. We try to say, okay, where is maintenance that we need to do? Where is maintenance where we have to do? And what does that look like for a budget? So those are conversations we're always having, just so you're aware of that.
Yeah, we've been trimming through attrition. There's several employees that were one FTEs that their position was reduced, and then we consolidated that with other positions. And something I think a lot of people, they just hear, well, Gilbert doesn't do open enrollment. And this is an interesting thing that I think is good to, to talk about it publicly, just kind of how we use open enrollment as a tool to manage the budget. It's a lot of I think the reduction in the enrollment right now is due to open enrollment out. Part of that, I think, with the vouchers and the things like that, so, that was kind of the first year that was really available. And, a lot of people took advantage of that. But, so when we don't just shut down open enrollment, and it's not just an open floodgates in. We have, a spreadsheet every month that we review, and essentially when we're teetering between, do we add a section, do we add a teacher, do we do things like that? Do we have a budget shortfall? Do we have to trim back? That's how we use open enrollment, is one of the many tools that we use. And if you saw this year, we actually put out that there's the kindergarten class. We opened that up to open enrollment to quite a few spots. So that's one where they're able to bring in more revenue that is not directly tax funded. So again, there's little things, within our span of control, there's levers that we try to pull and move to reduce the budget. But you're right to hold us accountable. You're right to be here in meetings. And these are just a couple of things I thought was worth mentioning. Like, we're not up here just spending everyone else's money. It's important to us that we manage that effectively. And those are just a couple of things that I could think of off the top of my head for how we try to manage that as best we can. So,
Josh, just to piggyback on what you just said about, the attrition that we've been going through and the cost reductions that we have, we're working through right now. The budget guarantee is $259,000, almost $260,000. That just brings us whole for next year. We have 1 year to make corrections. Fiscal year 27, that goes away, and we will actually drop that much to almost $260,000 because of those 17 students. So what we have to do is right the ship, and we have to, and we've been doing a great job, and it's gonna be next year, maybe the year after that we, make the corrections. And we have to reduce the amount of $260,000 that we will not get from the state. So we're doing a great job with every resignation. We look at every opportunity, and we are constantly saying, is it a need or is it a want to get through this time? Like everybody with their own household. And so we have plans in place, and we're working through that to get through the next budget year. Or actually it's 2 years. It may seem like one, but it's actually gonna affect us for 2 years. So.
And just to speak of that 17 students, I know people think that's not a lot of students. Well, when we budget out, we project, we've been projecting 1% growth. And 1% growth it's a real number, but it's kind of what our historical has been, at least 1%, if not more, over the last how many years. So we've always budgeted for a little bit of growth in our budget because that's what reality has told us. We did not expect the negative 17 kids. So you take the negative 17 kids, and then the negative kids that we expected coming in was a roughly 35 difference between the two. Take that number times the dollar we get per kid from the state, there's your $260,000 right there. So that's where the gap, again, when you hear 17, you think, well, gosh, you guys, that's not very much. Well, again, we're expecting growth because we've always seen a little bit of growth. So that's what we budget for. And to see that dip, it hits your financials pretty hard. So, and it hits it fast. There's not like this. So we've been very conservative with our approach to budget. 1% was always very conservative. We've always kind of hit it and been above. This is the first time, I've been on the board 6 years now. It's the first time we've been under that budget. So that's where it's been kind of a step back to be like, oh, we got to figure this out now. So, and we'll, again, we now are going to look at our budget differently going forward. We can expect the growth. We do feel it's still coming. But again, we cannot expect it like we have in the past because we didn't expect this dip in students. So again, even though it's again, I hear it to 17 kids, well, it's bigger than you think when you kind of think there's more coming in, and all of a sudden we've got 17 under. There's about a 35 student gap there that we just didn't have, and then the state is not giving us the money for those kids, which then means we got to make it up somewhere else. So that's where all this kind of comes into play.
The other piece too, that I think it's important, just a couple of thoughts I had was that, as you look at that number 17 is, Josh, you mentioned this for a minute, about the ESA program or the voucher program. And, I think I'll just say that I think it's important that parents have choice and I support that. The challenge is that as we looked at enrollment studies for Gilbert, the piece in there that we didn't really know where that was going to go is that voucher piece, that came in the ESA, and so I'm looking at that. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that and what that looks like, as parents, have that choice, and I will just say, I support them. I do think they should all choose Gilbert schools, but that's me. And but that is another piece that's, I think, really important. And then just thinking about how that budget plays. The 17 isn't right now, it's how that plays into our budget for next year. I think that's a school finance piece that sometimes is a little tricky, that it's unlike our home budgets, it's like, oh, well, if that, it costs us a little extra, it's not right now, it falls into next budgeting school year when it comes to school finance. So that's where it gets challenging too.
Yeah, we get paid from the state for the work that we did last year. So if you're a good worker and you do a little bit more every year, you're always behind. So it's another challenge that we have. Well, we've kind of been rambling up here, so I hope that is helpful.
This is based off every 2 years old. This stuff that comes out.
This is
No,
every
it's
year.
yearly.
This is
The-
every year.
The budget guarantee is, we calculate over the next 2 years, there's that makeup that we're gonna be doing.
And I think these letters started 3 years ago.
No, last year was the
Last
first
year.
year.
Last year.
Last year was the
There
first
is
year.
probably a similarly attended meeting at City Hall right now for the city of Gilbert.
Yeah. So they
Because
they
their
just-
meeting was at 6 as well, and I remember last year it was the same thing, and they said I had to explain it. This is the max, because if we can't go over that either, so we're not going to, we don't want to, but. Yeah, Andrew Tide.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Would you reiterate, you said call the state representative, what is the bill that we're encouraging them to get on?
It's the SSA.
Set the SSA rate.
Yeah.
Yes, they should have set it. They have not yet.
It's,
So that's where we're at. We have to assume that they're gonna give us 0.
yeah.
If they would meet their own
Supplemental state
deadline,
aid.
that would be wonderful.
I would never, I would never
They would
say
make
in
their
a
own
public meeting
deadline.
they're extorting us, but
There is.
some
is a
people
law.
might.
We abide by the laws,
Yeah.
but the state does not.
When's the state gonna, when are they supposed to, because, that's right, when are they supposed to have it sent by?
I think it was 20 days, 20 days after the first day they meet, which I think was January 7th. It was like 20 days they had to meet, or from the time they meet, which is like January 7th, January 8th, and there's like 20 or 30 days that they are to set the school SSA rate.
Well, and sorry.
Sorry, and the problem is they skipped it 1 year and then they've done it every year since. So then they realized, oh, we get away with it. And so it's been every 5, 6, 7 years now where they have not met the deadline that it says in the law to do. So every year we've got this exact same issue where we just, again, the letters just started going out as of last year, which is great. But before that, we still had the same problem. We were still doing these same meetings, without you guys getting the letter saying, we don't know what it is, but we're setting it for the maximum, hoping we're gonna get this. And
In theory, the state could be sued over it.
yeah, we just wait.
In theory.
We just sit here.
If I had lawsuit money,
And I
but we don't.
I don't think they're that far apart. I mean,
No.
the governor's recommendation is 2, and what we're hearing is 2.25. So I don't know,
But they have to agree.
yeah,
And yeah,
Councilman's
it's-
gonna
it's
have to
not-
agree and they're not agreeing.
yeah,
So they've not set a rate. So we have to assume we're getting nothing.
yeah, because it
Protect
goes to
ourselves,
0.
like you would do for your own household. You would assume, well, I'm getting nothing. You're gonna do things to protect yourself. And so that's what we're doing here, is saying, okay, if we get nothing, and my understanding is there have been years where we've got nothing.
1 year.
So we have to
Couldn't agree.
prepare and protect ourselves to get nothing with the hopes that we get 2% or more, but.
Politics, they're awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Seriously, I'm very thankful that all of you showed up. And like I said, if I could encourage you to go to the boring meetings too, we'd love to see the community engagement. Yeah, unless we have anything else,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
all in favor,
I.
Aye.
all opposed? Meeting adjourned.